Legend of War here, and today we're going to be returning to campaign reviews. We're going to be starting with Golgfag Maneater, and we'll be covering the others that were introduced in Omens of Destruction over the next couple of days. There are also a bunch of legendary lords that have received massive updates since I did campaign reviews of them, so if there's a particular lord that you'd like to see me redo their campaign review, let me know in the comments below, and just let me know why you think I should cover that one first over any others, because there's quite a few that could use a bit of an updated campaign review. But yeah, just let me know in the comments. So in this video here, we're going to be doing the campaign review for Golg, but also the Ogre rework, which I want to talk about first. So first thing, talk about the Ogre rework. One of the reasons why I held off on doing this video for so long is because in the past, whenever they've released a DLC, it seemed like the next few patches would focus on sort of tidying up that DLC. And since when this DLC launched, it was pretty unpolished. I figured making a campaign review on day one after it came out, for one thing, doesn't really give me enough time to actually play it and enjoy it. But also, it becomes outdated really quickly. And that would have been the case because the Ogre rework got a few tweaks here and there. There were a few broken things, and now they've been tidied up. I was expecting them to get a few more tweaks, which don't seem to be coming at all. I thought the 6.1 patch would focus on the ogres, sort of how the 5.1 patch focused on really enhancing the dwarfs. Now, I also want to rate the rework because there are other reworks that have happened in the past that I consider to be like the benchmark as like the best reworks. So for those, the 10 out of 10 rework is like the Beastman rework and the Dwarf rework. Those are the two that I consider to be the best. Those are two races that were previously not my favorite whatsoever, that then became, after the rework, really fun. But of course, it's a very subjective thing, and not everyone is going to enjoy the Dwarf or Beastman rework. But when it comes to the Ogre rework, they went from a basic, in my opinion, like a 4 out of 10 race, and they're now like an 8 out of 10 race. I really enjoy playing as the Ogres now. So I think it's a good, solid rework. Not the best rework ever, but I think an 8 out of 10 is a really good score for this. Okay, so now we're going to go over the changes, the fundamental changes for the Ogres that have changed for them. Obviously, many of you guys have already played the Ogres and know all the stuff to begin with, but I'll just give my review on it anyway. So, first thing is talking about bounties. Now, the previous bounty system I thought was absolute dog shit. I hated the mechanic even when I first heard about it in the blogs before Warhammer 3 first came out. It looked like a really boring, unintuitive mechanic. Basically, once every 10 turns, you get 3 options. You have to pick one of them. If you forget to click it, then you got to wait another 10 turns. And you're stuck with that mission until you actually do it. And oftentimes the 3 choices that you got weren't really appealing to do. It's just like a little bit of money or maybe a slight bonus for a short amount of time. But it was something that could have been pretty inconvenient to do. So bounties was something previously I didn't interact with whatsoever. I would even forget that the mechanic exists. Now, as of turn 3, you get issued with 3 bounties, and you can leave them there. You don't have to choose to do one of them specifically and commit to it. If you don't like any of them or one of them, you can just get rid of it straight away and be issued a new one the next turn. And leaving them there, maybe they'll become more convenient the next turn, or you could focus on them, because sometimes the rewards are pretty good. Sometimes they'll offer like a talisman of preservation in a bounty reward. There were, in the previous bounty system, there were sometimes really good rewards offered. It's just that now you'll get those rewards way more often if you lean into them. So really useful system there. In terms of where they get their biggest changes, is really down to the camps. Camps is something that you really want to play into right from the get-go and try to increase your camp limit straight away. I think it's really good that the Ogres get some global bonuses now that are pretty significant for obtaining certain resources. So, for example, the best one is getting kilns, getting the pottery ones, because it increases your camp limit when you get to tier 3. Now, pottery is all over the place, especially in like the Old World and Cathay, not so much in the Chaos Wastes. So obtaining those settlements and actually occupying the ones that have those resources are really valuable for the Ogres. Because yeah, you want to get as many camps as possible, because that's sort of like your primary way of making money. because there's lots of money that can be made from camps. And since there's no actual hard limit to how many camps you can have, you want to get as many of them as possible, especially considering popping down a camp and building it up doesn't cost money to build it up, it costs your meat. So you've now got a better use of meat apart from just boosting your army, which is what the previous system with meat was. Basically, it was just a number between 0 and 300, depending on how many battles you were fighting or if you had camps nearby. And if you had it at 300, you'd be well fed. Everything would work pretty well for the army. And if you were getting close to 0, then you could be close to getting attrition. It was pretty easy previously to just keep it above 0. Anytime you were getting pretty dangerously close, you just disband one of your camps and put it close, or just have a camp close by that you could get meat from, because it would always just make sure they weren't actually consuming meat. Now you can still technically do that, but at least now when you pack up the camp, you can put it back down and retain everything that it previously had, including the amount of meat that it has stored up. So it restores the amount of buildings that you built exactly, and also the units that were recruited. So that way your starting camp, which will probably be your highest level camp, this area here, for example, with Golg's campaign, eventually will be pretty damn safe. And so whatever doom stack you eventually recruit into the camp, because it's got no upkeep costs now, it's a bit of a waste to just have it sitting there doing nothing. So you can now, you don't have to do this, you can now pack it up, and in 3 turns you might be in a dangerous situation and pop down your camp somewhere, and it can provide a lot of really useful benefits, especially if you're building things that provide area of influence benefits for your ogre armies. And this is why you want to get that camp limit as high as possible, so that you're moving these camps around, and you can have as many camps sitting in reserve as you want. There's no limit to the amount of camps you can recruit. There's only a limit to how many camps that you can have active at any given time. So that's the main thing there. And of course, they still retain their technology, the Ogre Throng. So when you get a camp up to level 5, and you've researched that, then you get access to another camp that you can have access at a time. So yeah, by the end of the campaign, if you play it well, you can have loads and loads of active camps that are currently being developed towards level 5. Really good system. They made it a lot more rewarding. A lot more benefits, I think, to the ogres with that. They also got a bit of a rework with the tech tree. I didn't really think it was that big of a deal. It was a bit more linear the way it was before, but as far as the benefits are concerned, it feels about the same. It's just a bit more interesting in terms of the decisions that you can make with this, and that it's not so linear in that you've got 2 different choices to go through. Typically speaking, I find that going through the tribes and trying to get to Ogre Throng as quickly as possible is the ideal thing to do, but everyone's going to choose their own path, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just do whatever suits you best. You'll eventually get there, as long as you keep researching stuff. Okay, so that's all I've got really to say about the Ogre rework, apart from, of course, that each of the other Ogre Lords also got their own campaign mechanic and actually feel like DLC Lords as well, so that's really good for them. So they're probably going to need another campaign review as well. Now let's talk about Golgfag Maneater. So obviously I'm not saying his real name for YouTube monetization reasons. It hurts the video when it gets demonetized. You guys know it. It's just a workaround. You know what I'm saying. Anyway, bit of a dog whistle, but his name isn't a slur, but it has a slur in it. You know how it is. Okay, so Golg's mechanic. At first I thought his contract mechanic was basically just like bounties, but just a different way of presenting it, but I think it's a bit more than that. It's quite interesting. Basically, you can only choose one of them at a time. You can have contracts based on who you have met in the world. So sending your agents to go and meet factions all across the world is actually really useful with Golg. He can't establish alliances in this campaign, so defending your territory can be a little bit of a problem sometimes if you are completely hated. But while you are on contract for another faction, they tend not to hate you for doing that. They'll hate the person that contracted you. And when you eventually peace out, if you decide to do so, they basically just forget that you smash all their settlements, basically. Because it wasn't you who did it, it was the person who contracted you to do it. I thought it was also really useful, just a little tidbit, that they added some references to other YouTubers of this. So you've got Cody Bonds here and Great Book of Grudges there, and also Akoi here. So that was cool. They added some references to other YouTubers. So good on them for doing that. But yeah, with this, once per contract, you're able to teleport Golg's army. Teleporting your armies around is a bit of a contentious topic, I think. I personally like it because the map of Immortal Empires is huge, and being able to teleport allows you to experience more of that map in any given campaign. But yeah, the fact that 3 out of 4 of the lords added with Omens of Destruction have access to teleport mechanics, it feels like it's a bit overdone, but I didn't have a problem with it. When it came to these contracts, especially in the later stages of the campaign, the amount of meat gets pretty damn ridiculous, and it also sometimes comes with pretty unique items. It doesn't seem to be obtainable any other way except by completing a contract. And some of these items are really bloody good. So I really enjoyed Golg's campaign, just like teleporting around the map. And one of the great things about doing this as well is that pretty early on, a Cathay caravan, or a couple of Cathay caravans can come through here, and you can use the fact that you meet them to eventually do a contract for them, teleport over to Cathay, maybe even smash Gelt, who knows, and just teleport them all over the place, get defeat traits, set up outposts essentially to lock onto pottery resources, so you just get camps all over the place. But of course, if you leave a fragmented empire is quite vulnerable. The overall Ogre economy does seem to be better than it was before. Minor, like just regular settlements don't seem to be worth that much. It's really just about making sure that the enemy don't hold on to it, but you're really just there to support your camps. Getting meat doesn't seem to be an issue whatsoever either, especially with Golg, because yeah, you just make so much meat from these camps, and because he's able to teleport, that allows him to be more aggressive in his campaigns. As opposed to having to like march 10 turns towards the location, just teleport straight there. As for Golg himself, I think Golg is a really strong fighter. You can definitely make him a one-man doomstack if you put in enough effort. You know, getting him the Nemesis crown and one of the regen items. I think his quest item, Bugman's 6X, is kind of a lame item, not really that good, especially because one of his big names gives you passive regen pretty early on, well, when fighting against humans, and so getting extra regen, it's just, I don't think that's a particularly good item, so this isn't something that I particularly prioritize, but it's not bad or by any means, but I think that's like the weakest part of him is this item here just doesn't really feel that impactful. Usually what I do with Golg is actually try to attach, if you get access to it, is that unique map that you get. It gives you 50% extra movement. But, you know, there's a risk of him possibly teleporting to a neighboring region. But that's okay, because you've got your own teleport mechanic as well, so you sort of negate that a fair bit. But that 50% extra campaign movement range really allows Golg to just get around and smash things really quickly. He's got a really good skill tree. I mean, obviously you want to get all his unique stuff and just make him a super strong fighter. I find making him an army full of his particular man-eaters is pretty damn strong. These are not super high tier units. You get them at like tier 3 from a camp. It's not that difficult to get them. They do take 2 turns to recruit, so we usually have somebody else recruit it for him, and then just when Golg manages to teleport back to that particular character, transfer those units back into him. But yeah, every single Golg campaign is going to be completely different from anyone else's due to the random nature of the contracts that you're going to get, and the fact that you're really incentivized to jump into those contracts and play into them, because you get a lot of benefits from it. You don't have to give the territories over to the people that you're fighting for. I usually don't. I take them for myself, but that's the great thing about this particular campaign. It gives you options. You can have vastly different campaigns depending on your personal playstyle, and that's really good. You want campaigns that are not going to be the same every single time you play them, because that incentivizes you to go back and play it again. So I think they did a really good job with Golg's campaign. And, you know, if I was to give this one a rating out of 10, I'd probably give this particular campaign like a 9 out of 10. It's really bloody good. So really quite enjoy Golg's campaign there. Anyway, that's the end of this campaign review here. In terms of like what you should do at the start of your campaign, it's too random. Just do whatever you feel is best. It's very difficult to lose a Golg campaign unless you really screw up at the start, because you'll always have access to loads of camps and stuff. Just be aggressive, put down as many camps as possible. If you use that ethos, you'll be fine. Should be fine. Anyway, that's the end of this one. Let me know in the comments below, again, which legendary lord you'd like me to revisit, what you think about Golg's campaign. Surely many of you guys have had a chance to play it by now. It's been out now for a couple of months. I've really enjoyed it. This has been one of my favorite campaigns of the DLC. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time. Later.